I lost Andy. Ah, it's already going.
Presenting.
Already on it.
There we go. Yeah, so I just a quick one. I did a talk at EuroPython the week before last. So Matt asked me to do a quick update to you all. So this was the first EuroPython event they've held for a couple of years for obvious reasons. There was still a ton of sensitivity about folks being in person. It was a true, cross Europe event. We had people from pretty much every country in Europe, including those of us that are no longer. Decent numbers, about 1,200. I think the conference center would have held more. One thing that I thought they did really well was they did a hybrid event, and the way they did it was the whole content was streamed online for free. But if you paid for a remote ticket, then you got to participate in various side channels, chat rooms, and you could ask questions live of the presenters. And if you did ask a question live of the presenters, then you were brought in on screen in the conference venue as well, which was pretty great. Actually, I'd not seen that done well before, and I thought it worked pretty well. So I was there. I wasn't so. It's like a regular PyCon. So they have some days for workshops, some days for talks, some days for sprints. I was there just for the talks days. I was also on the panel of folks who helped to choose the content. They had a specific makers track for the event, and they had a number of talks. I didn't select my own talk, just to be clear, but I was quite pleased that obviously that they chose to choose mine. I had to prompt them to actually review mine because nobody was reviewing it, which was awkward. Anyway, so Deshipu, or however his online name is handled, Radomir was there, the guy that invented or came up with the Pew Pew, the little gaming boards. He did a workshop that I didn't go to, but I did go to his talk. He was talking about using CircuitPython for gaming on the little Pew Pew boards. There was another talk that was remotely delivered from remote by a chap in the Netherlands, I think, or Germany. And I'm afraid I should have just looked this up a minute ago, but I'm mangling this already. It was a guy that had done a workshop a few years ago about, again, boards that were sort of game type consoles, how to basically go through the design process in various CAD tools and take them into production. I gave the intro to MicroPython talk. And then there was also a makerspace in the community area that looked a little bit like this. They had 3 or 4 tables that were rotating with different folks that came in. So these were the gaming boards. Then one of the local Raspberry Jam folks came along and did some stuff with some of these conductive ink boards on a Pi, various other things. Each day they had different folks come in basically to show off what they were working on and get you interested. The other thing that was useful for me was the Microbit folks were there. So I had a great chat with Carlos from Microbit, and he's invited me to go have a chat with them sometime in Oxford over here. So I wanted to give a talk, my first sort of public talk outside of this meetup about MicroPython. So my goals were really to talk about what it is for those that hadn't come across it, why I think it's important, why I spend my time with this community. I kind of went through a couple of the boards and then I wanted to do some demos. I will say that the video will be available. I think, Matt, I sent you a link to an unedited or a kind of an in-stream version, and I don't know whether you had a chance to look at it, but as I went on stage, I managed to explode a bottle of sparkling water all over myself, so it was the best start. And then the pedestal was like sloping, and I had all these boards and everything was falling all over the floor. And I'd run out and bought a separate webcam so I could show stuff on screen, and it was just, yeah, it was not my finest, most well-rehearsed talk. So I kind of did some stuff that I spoke with you all about a few months ago in this meetup, just to sort of say, this is how I learned, this is how I got involved. Talked about the tooling. I particularly wanted to talk about MP Remote because my perception is that there aren't enough tutorials about it yet. People haven't come across it to some extent because a lot of the content that's out there is talking about Thonny, or it's talking about the PyBoard tool. There were a number of us also at the event who had some of the Pimoroni badges, either the Tufty or the e-paper, the Badger. So we were sort of comparing those. So I showed those off. Then I did a little demo because the W had just come out on the Friday beforehand. So I ran a web server. Anybody, and I had it hotspot. I think it's Alistair's demo actually, more or less. But the cool thing about this was because SVGs are just text, you can throw that straight into the MicroPython thing that's serving the web page, and you can have a nice image and stuff. And then if people connected, they could just, obviously they couldn't connect, couldn't just click these links because they were then on a hotspot from the Pico. But the idea was that they could sort of follow some links to some community content. And then I pointed them at some things that I found useful. Since then, the other thing I did, one question I got hung up on that came up, somebody asked about what the minimum requirement for RAM was, and I kind of froze up and couldn't remember. And I had a vague memory that it was, 16K or something like that. And somebody will correct me in a second. But anyway, and I said, look, I can't remember. You need to Google it. I really honestly can't remember. Anyway, the guy that does the Pybricks stuff actually replied on Twitter because he'd actually logged in because I'd said I was going to talk about Pybricks as well. And he'd followed my stream, which was really nice of him, and confirmed the number there. But I gave out some, I had some regular PKs with me. I had like a strip of 6 of them. So I handed them out to people that asked questions. And people obviously seem to love a free PK to go away with and play with. I've been curating, this is other stuff I've been doing. So I had a chat on Slack with Jim about potentially restructuring the docs. I need to follow up on that. I need to follow up on the PR I've put in. I've got this Newt board, which of course I bloody messed up my background, but it's a crowd supply board. They've just started to ship the ESP32S2s. It's all programmed at the moment in the ESP Arduino setup, but it's got a big sharp LCD on here, and it's got some touch pads down the side that, for buttons. And it runs off battery. So I've been raising a bunch of issues and PRs on the repo for that, and I'm looking to try out MicroPython on there. I know that the guy, Darius, I think the guy that came up with that is interested in MicroPython and CircuitPython samples. And then I just asked a question yesterday about the mini sample, because I noticed we've got a distribution for it on the MicroPython site. I'm having some issues. So, and I also noticed that the SAMD, Damien's tilting his head. I'm having some problems with MP remoting with the current, and Thonny connecting with the current 1.191 MicroPython. And also I noticed that the help link in the REPL, when I get into it, points to a non-existent page and little things like that. So, I can help out with some of those things, but yeah, that's it. I'm done. I hope we had about 20 people in the room, I think, maybe 30. I wasn't really counting. I was more stressing about my talk. As usual, once I've given a talk once, I'll get better the second time around. So I'll feel much better when I do a similar type of intro talk in the future. But that was my first one of these. So I'm looking forward to helping with some more if folks enjoyed it.
Cool.